This is my brief journey. Rahul did allude to you a few highlights of it, but if I look at this in a little bit of more detail, my career journey oscillates between working for large companies, large brands, multinationals, different locations, San Francisco, Bangalore, Bombay, Ranchi, London, now back in Gurgaon. And so in many ways, I'm a typical middle class kid who started out early and said, where do I want to go? And in many ways, I'm very lucky because I've worked for some of the good companies, good brands. So I have done about 3 ventures. I have done three. Thank you very much for that feedback. Thank you. Are you able to hear me louder, but better now? Yeah. Okay. So my 3 ventures were in the technology area, marketing area, and one of them, which was my first one when I was still in college, that bombed because I didn't manage the cash flows well. The remaining 2 ones is where it's been a success in terms of creating customer value, in terms of creating shareholder value, hiring the employees, building up teams, etc. So I'll be narrating some of those experiences as we go forward. In my failures, I'm not from IIT, I'm not from an MBA college. I have failed in one startup. I'm not settled in the Indian traditional way of what you call a settle. I still have a challenge on understanding financials and reading balance sheets. So those are my issues. I was in a workshop about 6 weeks, 8 weeks back, and somebody said, what's that one word people should remember about you? So this is where it is. If you see Dhoni's picture, Dhoni is from the same school as I in Ranchi. So that's the one way to bookmark me in your memory, that you've met somebody else who's also from the same school as Mahendra Singh Dhoni. We have played for the same cricket team and we also have had the same cricket coach. Of course, different destinies, different journeys, and that's where we are. So my first question to you is, why be an entrepreneur? It's not just about, oh, there is something I want to do, I don't want to have a boss. Those are reasons which are milder reasons. Essentially, you have to have a certain spunk in you, which is about creating an impact. And if you look at why become an entrepreneur, you get so much of exposure to variety of roles. This is the fastest way to learn. One of the questions I get often asked by students is that I do not know what I want to do. I do not know if I want to be a marketeer or HR or whatever. If you're an entrepreneur, this is your ringside view, full action view to understand which are the functions in a company, because as an entrepreneur, you'll be doing everything in a venture. So, of course, you will create wealth for yourself, for people around you. You will create social impact or larger impact for your customers, for the ecosystem. You will create jobs if you're lucky and if you get blessed, as I was. At one time, we had 85 employees at Octane Marketing. So imagine the satisfaction you get every month when you look at how your team is growing and you're able to employ not only full-time employees, but contractors, interns, etc. And you get exposure to so many people, so many varieties of functions. So if any one of this or more than one of this is your point which is tickling you, I think this is the time for you to explore entrepreneurship in a little bit more detail. Crisis is often the best time. Actually, to become an entrepreneur, there's no good time or bad time. Every time is a good time, but crisis does throw up newer opportunities, no newer, lower hanging fruits, and those are good ones for you. So right now, everybody's looking for painkiller ideas because of Corona. How can we work from home? A lot of anxiety. There's a lot of concern. There's a lot of opportunity. So anytime you have volatility in the market, in the economy, that's also a good time to start because you're starting out with a clean slate. The competition is weak. Larger companies are struggling to just stay still and stay stable. Hiring for you is easier. Funding will not be easy, but whatever funding you get will get a lot of scrutiny, and you will learn a lot in that process. And by the way, you will know your real customers only in the crisis time, because if they pay for you, you know you're delivering real value, which may not be true in the times when everybody is happy and there's a lot of partying going on. Those are the times you can get customers of all types, but the most critical customers you'll get, because now they have to pay and they have to pay from tight budgets. So this is one of the better times to validate your solution. In my experience, we started in 2007 with Octane, and by the time we were ready for the market, which was 2009, 2010, India's e-commerce revolution started, and we rode those waves. So imagine if you love boats, this is a time to make that boat, fix that boat, test that boat, And when the tides come back in your ocean, you ride those boats to higher and higher. So for prototyping, for testing your ideas, for building up, right now there's no hurry. This is your time to do it. But when you start scaling up, when the economy is boom, that's the time you scale up more and more. So if that's the question, where are the opportunities? I've often talked about devices, data, and digital. They were changing a lot of things around us. The entire phenomena of Uberization of public transport, why people will not buy cars. This has been enabled for the last 15 years by the confluence, by the perfect storm called disruption created by devices, data, and digital. And the entire phenomena of Corona or COVID-19 actually, it increases that to the next level. So if the rate of change was X earlier, it's going to be multitude of X post COVID-19. If you look at work from home, these are not new practices, but they take a different level of criticality post COVID-19. If that's the case, what is the right way to start a company? What is the right way to think about being an entrepreneur? Well, there's no wrong answer. There's no wrong answer. It's the answer you try and it works for you, or you fail in it and you learn from it. So there's no right or wrong answer to any question, anything you have in your mind. It's your journey and it's very personal. Like meditation, entrepreneurship is a very personal pursuit. It's a very personal experience. So what has worked for me, you can get inspiration from it, but don't hold it too close to your chest to say, this is the only way. So the first thing about being an entrepreneur, there's no wrong answer. There's answers have been tried and they may have been relevant at that time, but there are answers which need to be explored now. I will share with you 5 things you have to do to become entrepreneur ready, entrepreneurship ready. But even if you did all of those 5 and 15 and 20, even if you get the best of VCs to back you, first customers, great employees, 90% startups fail. So this is my disclosure and disclaimer that this is not a secret recipe to make your startup venture work, but there's an invisible factor called timing, and some of the best companies in the world, well funded, great traction, but the timing was not right. If you look at Facebook, Facebook is not the first platform for social media networking, social networking. It's, I think, the fourth way of such platform. But timing for Facebook was the best one, and they rode that wave very well. If you look at, you're all using Zoom or WebEx these days. Zoom had 30 million customers for the last 8 years. They've been in business. Zoom the video conferencing solution. And now in last 3 months, they've added 300 million. So timing is beyond your control. So we'll talk about things which are in your control. So in my top 5, the first one is, if you do not have those skills in place, build that muscle, understand what entrepreneurship will demand from you. And these are some of the skills that will be needed almost on a daily basis, which is critical thinking, problem solving. You will be encountering one massive, big problem almost on a weekly basis. That's the definition of a good startup. It doesn't matter if you're well funded or starting out with 2 employees, 2 of you, but it doesn't matter where you are. As long as you're a startup, you'll be facing huge issues on a weekly basis, if not once, definitely more than once. Accountability and ownership mindset. The buck stops at your table. If you're productive, if you're delivering value, your team will deliver value. So there's no somebody to look upon. There's no boss to save you. It is a high risk, high reward situation. By the way, people can say when these days jobs are also high risk, low reward situations, but that's a different discussion for a different time. So it needs you to be delivering ownership mindset. What you say you will do by whatever time has to be done. You have to be able to articulate your ideas, inspire a lot more other people, including investors, customers, prospecting employees. And that also means you have to be people ready. You have to be out there meeting people, network, get to know people, understand how to build connections with people. Your interpersonal awareness skills have to be notch higher than when you are just a student or an employee in an organization. You need to understand basic money skills, how to manage cash flows. You don't have to become an accountant or a chartered accountant, but those skills definitely help you to understand how money flows and why money is the currency of any venture, and it's important to understand how that flows. Do you know your strengths? So very often we start to build on our weaknesses and ignore our strengths. As an entrepreneur, you have a choice. The only choice is you have to know your strengths and build on them towards success of your venture. You will not have time to build on your strengths. You can use your strengths to mask your weakness or hire people who can help you. But this is the time to also know what works for you and what doesn't work for you. So this one is a very personal slide. Number one point is you have to be ready with certain skill sets if you want to become a successful entrepreneur. My second point in the 5-point series is what's your compelling story? Are you doing something for the first time to solve a problem which has not been solved before? Or are you joining where there's a lot of people already in the marketplace, but you want to be the best in that category? So what's your story? And can you articulate that in less than a minute? We call it the elevator pitch. You meet somebody in an elevator. You have less than a minute to talk about what you do. So you have to be always ready to be able to articulate your story in a compelling way with as little words. And that story evolves. That's not a story you start with and you end up with, but that's a story you got to know. So this is where the communication part comes into play. And when so the hero model is you define a problem and you define a possible scenario where there's a conflict. And with your solution, that problem gets solved. So what's the hero? What is the hero element of your story? What if you're doing something, why are you doing something? If you're solving a problem, is that a massive problem to be solved? And who are you solving this problem for? So you have to invest a lot of your time initially in articulating your story. These could be videos, this could be slides, this could be writing um, paragraphs of stories, interviews. This is second most important trait you need to have, which is to be a storytelling ability. Let's go to the third one. And this is where a lot of us fail because we say we do not know what this business looks like. So we'll build our business plan as we go along. You have to start putting things on a piece of paper. This is where you commit yourself to understanding what a business plan is and how will you forecast that business. If you want employees to join you, if you want your customers to trust you, if you want investors to fund you, they would like to know whether this is something you're committing for at least 2 to 3 to 4 years. Any company you start, it's not going to turn around and become successful maybe in 2 years. It's a longer grind. If you think you'll be able to make money and make customers successful in 6 months, please double it to 12 months. So the point is, there is a lot of things you will try to do in the future. And a good business plan is how your ecosystem will judge you. And some of the customers will say to you, Mr. Punit Modhgil, I love your technology. Well, what's your business plan? Are you going to be in business next year? I'm going to switch a lot of my processes to your technology. But are you stable? Do you have the money to ride this next 12 months? So who are your customers? Why will they trust you? How do you plan to make them successful? What are the resources you need? What kind of money you need and when? It's not good to say I need $1 million to start a company. You may not need more than maybe $10,000 to start with, or even ₹1,00,000 to start with. And how will this venture look at it? So most of the times entrepreneurs will know the market, will know exactly what they want to do. But this is where we often fail. I'm not saying a good business plan is a guarantee to success of your venture, but this does make it easy for you to raise capital, get customers, hire friends, hire employees. So a lot of this becomes easier if you're on a journey which you can articulate. Of course, your business plan will change, but this is a blueprint you start with. And this is where your critical thinking, problem solving comes into play. But don't despair if you're a young student, because a lot of this is available in templates. If you search business plan on YouTube, there are a lot of videos as long as you're willing to learn. But this is one of the most critical places where entrepreneurs fail to write it well and do it well. And this is where some of the finance folks have a tremendous advantage. If you see a lot of the venture companies in India, especially in the last 10 years, a lot of them come from the investment bank background. They're investment bankers. So they understand how to make this play very well. So articulating the story as a financial model, as a business model is equally important. That's my point number 3 for you. It also helps people visualize what success will mean for them. If you're an investor, it also tells them when they can put in more money in your venture, or will they be able to make money on the money they've already invested. So this is where you're aligning a lot of resources around you towards your business venture. So business plan is an integral part of when you start to doing something new. The moment you incorporate a name, URL, domain, it's the time you have to start thinking about your business plan. Okay, so you have an idea, you have made a business plan, you think you can have early customers, you are talking to people. Now, guess what? You need to take a investment because you want to have an office, you want to take people on salary, pay consultants, get your website up and running. And money can be from few lakh rupees to few crore rupees, depending on the size of your venture. If you're an R&D driven venture, we're going to research on which vaccine will work for Corona 19. We're talking about a few $1 million, but if you're starting out something like an agency to help customers with their market research projects, then you can start with a few lakh rupees or maybe lakh rupees as well. But understand that not all money is the same. Please refrain from taking money from your friends and family. They'll be the first ones to offer you. They trust you, and sometimes they may not have a choice but to fund your venture. I'm not saying you can't take money from your parents to fund your monthly mobile bills or your petrol expenses, but for your venture, please stay away. And there's a reason for it, and I'll be happy to answer that question later. But ask for smart money, not easy money. Smart money will come with constraints. Smart money will come with questions. Smart money जब आएगा साथ में तो बहुत सारी questions भी लेके आएगा. But smart money के साथ there'll be a lot of due diligence, lot of professional expertise you will also get. In the last about 15 minutes, I've been speaking mostly in English, but sometimes I get feedback that you should speak in English. So if you have any of those concerns, you can let me know. I'll switch it now, or I'll continue to speak in English. And if you're watching this recorded, I'm happy to speak to you on LinkedIn in the language of your choice, be it English or Hindi. But I'll continue to speak mostly for English, but I'm happy to take your questions in English or Hindi or English as well. So raise smart money. And when you plan, don't plan for, if you need a lakh rupees, ask for 2 lakh rupees. Don't ask for 10,000 rupees and think, एक बार फंस गए तो फिर उनसे पैसा और ले लेंगे. Use money not to pay yourself. No venture capital, no investor would like to pay you salary from their investment in your venture. So please defer any plan you may have to pay your salary from your venture for at least next 2 years. And never, because your equity will be 100% with you, you will be sometimes compelled to say, oh, if you make my website, I'll give you 5% of my equity. Please do not do so. The only thing that will raise in equity, in wealth, is your equity if you become successful. That 5% will be a lot more valuable later. And that 5% initially when you're giving out to people, or 2% or 1%, it's of no value to them because you're not yet a successful venture. So it's good to borrow from banks. It's good to borrow from, raise an angel round. I would rather pay professional fees than give equity to anybody in case of any work they do for us. I'm not saying you can't give equity to smart investors in your company at a discount. You can, but be careful with equity you give out. That's because very important. Question is, what does smart capital mean? Smart capital is money that comes to you from proven professional angel investors, money that comes to you from startup agencies, money that comes to you from accelerators, incubators like at Ambedkar University. Money that's not just money that's given to you, but money that comes with a lot more expertise. I'll give an example. An angel, when they put money in your venture, they're just not putting money in your venture. They will not just let you be and take the money and go away. They'll ask you for monthly reports, quarterly reports, meetings often. They'll ask you questions. Are you stuck somewhere? So you get access to a lot of resources beyond money. So money that gets you a lot more beyond just money, expertise, networks, references, is smart capital. And money which is just pure rupees denomination comes to your bank account is money, is capital. I'm not against any capital, but I would rather you raise smart money, even if it's a lesser amount, because that will get you a lot more people working for you. Angel investors are always going around talking to people about the investments they have made. VCs call their own investment firms wherever they've invested money. There's a lot of cross-pollination of ideas that happen. So smart money is money that comes with expertise, with network, with accountability, with tough questions. And not smart money is something just, you can take a loan from a bank. That's just money. So I'm more interested in smart money, smart capital than easy money. So we've discussed many of these in detail. And there's a reason why I have insisted on this point, and I can speak to you more if you have follow-up questions. My last point is that you will not be able to solve this problem alone. Entrepreneurship is not like being a freelancer. There's a difference. Entrepreneurs will have to build a team greater than themselves. If you don't understand finance, please hire somebody in your early team which understands finance. If you understand business problems, if you're a communicator, get a co-founder who's good in technology. That's why a lot of companies which are tech enabled will have CTOs as part of the early team. Build a great team of advisors, mentors, promoters, people who love you for what you do and for your vision, and they want to support you. I must tell you that when I started out Octane, I got lucky. I got lucky because I built a strong team of three of us, three co-founders. And I must tell you, whenever I've gone to people with a business idea, as long as they know I'm sincere about my idea, and it's an original idea, it's my thought, a lot more support comes to me from the ecosystem. If you were to start something and share with people where you are, there's a lot of people who will come to you with unsolicited advice, but a lot of times good networks also. So build a team of advisors, build a team of mentors, and start with at least one additional co-founder, because it can be sometimes very lonely being an entrepreneur. And by the way, I've not said on these slides, but tell your family that you're going through an entrepreneurship. It doesn't matter if you're single, married, staying with parents, alone, but you have to also prepare them that this is a roller coaster ride. It's going to be fun, it's going to be exciting, but it's not going to be easy. So that's where it is. And the last point on the slide is that please start building your culture, sanskar of the company, values of the company from day one. You cannot redo it when you're employee number 40. When you start out, for example, if you have to, on 29th of the month, you have only money to either pay your employee, the last employee remaining, or pay your monthly EMI for the car you have. Which one would you choose? So these are trade-offs you'll have to make. And most of the companies which are big today, they have been built on great culture. Peter Drucker said, one of the management gurus said that culture takes strategy for culture eats strategy for breakfast. And this is so true. You cannot redo culture. This is the foundation of what you build. If those are things you cherish, and integrity, ethics, good values is what you cherish for, you'll have to watch out. You will make mistakes, but as long as you're aware and your team is aware that these are 2, 3, 5 things will never cross the line, it's not about being legal or illegal. There's a line beyond it, and that will be your compelling factor. At Octane, for example, when we started out, everybody was sending emails to everybody. From day one, we said we'll not let anybody use our platform for spamming email IDs or sending unsolicited emails or SMSs. So we started by saying no spamming. So our first logo was a spam written, keyword spam, and there was a cross sign on it saying no spam. So no spam was our first call to action. Guess what? A lot of people said that doesn't work for me because I don't have my database, my own email IDs. But it worked for a lot of people who said, you're trying to do something new and interesting. And this is the reason I'll join you and I'll support you. So your values also become your selling tool. But if they're just your selling tool, they will fall flat. When your employees, when people who know about you, they speak about you behind you with the values you stand for, then you're doing well. So we're building a great team. You cannot build it just because of somebody's degrees or educational qualifications. It's also about the values that you build the organization on. So these are my 5 points about what will make you become more ready, a good entrepreneur. And I thought I'll give you a bonus on this one. So this is my bonus tip. When I started out my first venture many moons ago, it was all aim, shoot, and miss and retry. We didn't have good ecosystem of mentors. We didn't have good investment advisors, angel investors. We didn't have incubators, accelerators. So everything was a high risk, high reward, but it was very, very tough climb. We didn't have baby steps. Good news is nowadays, becoming an entrepreneur. On the flip side, everybody is fashionably becoming an entrepreneur. So that's the wrong side. And entrepreneurs are being talked about, I think, celebrated more than what should be necessary. There's a keyword for it called entrepreneurship porn. It's become very, very fashionable, very, very hyped. But if you remove that hype, there are good things that have happened to becoming an entrepreneur, especially in the last 10 years in India. We have a lot of angel investors, a lot of advisors, a lot of good examples, a lot of material to read, a lot of role models. So start with a ecosystem. Why do you have to start everything from scratch? Why do you have to go around looking for how do I incorporate my company? What's a good structure? Should it be a limited partnership? Should it be a private limited? What should be my incorporation address? What will be my office address? You know, who will give me the first grant? Where will I get angel investors? So a lot of questions are already readily available for you, answered in a format which is available to you around you. So all you have to do is pitch your idea, and if you're selected, then not only money, but other resources, mentorships, networks open to you. So for example, at Ambedkar University, the team that's hosting this particular webinar, they have a beautiful program for social entrepreneurship. This you can do while you are a student, or if you've graduated with a recent degree. There's no start time that you can, they have cohorts, I think every 6 months or 4 months. Rahul can update you on that one. But this is the great way to get started. There are at least, I would say, at least 10 good startup incubators, accelerators that are available around you. And guess what? Once they validate your idea, once they also say this makes sense, it's easier for you also to go to a bank and go for subsequent round of um, funding or hiring of people. So use this lab. I call them entrepreneurship labs, to really learn, experiment, fail, do a lot of prototyping. And this is happening because there is an entire ecosystem which is promoting, not only just universities like Ambedkar, not only private investors, but even if you look at banks, even if you look at government, if you look at Atal Yojana, there's a lot of support available to entrepreneurs today. However, they cannot replace the things we have talked about. Once you have them in place, you are not alone in this journey. So I've actually given you 6 tips because I thought I should leave you with some bonus. Now let me take your questions. And Rahul, if you have questions, we can queue them. Or I also have a slide because I went on social media and I asked people what would be your questions for me if you're a student. So Rahul, I'm happy to stop here, pause here, take questions as they come, or I'm happy to proceed with my questions I raised. I leave it to you.
Mm, yeah, thanks, Punit. Thanks for your intriguing session and sharing your thoughts around entrepreneurship. Guys, if you have any questions, you can write on the chat box. As of now, I just received, I think we received one, and you have answered during the session. If you have any
Okay,
others, please you can write. Meanwhile, maybe Punit, you can proceed with the questions which you thought of, sharing the answers of.
sure, Rahul. So this is the advantage you get. We have a lot of participants on this call, and this is a live session. So all the answers you will get will be very personalized to you. And this is the part that you'll miss out on a recorded session later. So there's a question that's come from Ramesh Gupta. He says, sir, I want to start. Let me just find out where my chat option went. Can you repeat the question for me? Rahul, there's a
Sure,
question
sure, sure, sure. I'll do that. Ramesh is asking, sir, I want to start up in online education. What I have to take care of?
So Ramesh, that's a great way to look at the marketplace. There's tremendous opportunities which will come in your way. But you have to go deeper into what is the problem you're trying to solve. So are you trying to solve the problem of students attending a virtual classroom with teachers online? What is the problem you're trying to solve? That's the space which will grow. We all know that online education will become more and more mainstreamed with work from home, remote working becoming more and more. So that's the question that you have to ask. What is that specific problem you're trying to solve? Are you trying to become the consultant to campuses like Ambedkar University going online? Is that the market opportunity? So you have to define that problem in a little bit more detail. The good news is that this system, this online education business will expand phenomenally. The not so good news, it's already populated with a lot of platforms. So you have to do your market assessment. You have to find out what's already happening. And sometimes you'll find that the problem you were defining is already being solved by many companies. So you have two choices. You can say, look, my solution is different. It's cheap and hence it'll still work. Or you can say, well, let me try something else in this space because it's a very exciting space to be in. So that's the part. Online education, growing area, tremendous opportunity. But what is the problem you're trying to solve? There can be many, many pivots to the same question. So that's the next question you have to ask is what is the problem you're trying to solve? And sometimes you'll not know the answer. So talk to people who are in the online education business and ask them, what is the number one challenge you're currently facing? So this is the research part where you as an entrepreneur also have to do a lot of research and find out. I'll let Rahul ask the follow-up.
Punit, yeah, so there's a follow-up question from, just a second.
Guys, if you ask the question in a question format, it'll be easy for me to respond to you. Otherwise, my commentaries can go on for hours. And I'll try to answer the question with a crisp answer first and then expand on it.
So there's a question from Mahima that how to read the market, what she is trying to understand, how do you assess that what's the exact need of the customer? I think you touched on that in your previous answer, but if you can elaborate a little bit, it'll be great.
Okay, so when you look at the opportunities post COVID, there are a few areas everybody's saying there's an opportunity, right? So there are two ways you can look at the entire entrepreneurship idea. One is you have a problem, personal problem, and you're saying, look, is there a reason I should not solve this for everybody around me who's also facing something similar? That's one way to find a business idea which will work for you. The other is to look at a scan the marketplace. For example, as the earlier gentleman asked a question, online education is happening very well. But what are the current pain points in online education? Remember, every solution in the marketplace will answer one or two needs of the customer. It'll also create many more unmet needs or unmet problems. I'll give you a small example. When everybody didn't have a cell phone, they didn't care about the battery life, did they? So when cell phones came, they solved one problem, but they created a whole lot of new problems, right? So when they moved from those simple cell phones where we didn't care about battery life, the cell phone lasted for a few days. Now the battery life has become an issue. I'm seeing that cell phones are now being sold on the quality of selfie lens, the first lens you see towards you. I mean, so every solution will solve some problems and will create some new ones. You have to do critical thinking and find out. By the way, Ambedkar University does run workshops on design thinking, and some of them can help you try to find out how to qualify, quantify a customer problem and articulation beyond your biases and how to make a compelling reason. So I'll let Rahul do a pitch to you later on that one. But that's by the way, I have attended that workshop at Ambedkar University. So you should look at some of those inputs, and then that will be useful when you look at the market.
Thanks, Puneet. There's another one from Amrita. She's saying, like, sir, you said that funding will not be easy after COVID-19. What exactly could be the challenges and how can we get over that? She plans to start a venture in agri space. So any thoughts, any ideas which you have come up with recently, while talking to entrepreneurs or people in this space, how people are thinking of getting over to this problem in terms of funding?
Great question, Amrita. The reason why there'll be less money available for ventures is because the psyche changes. Nothing has changed in terms of the Mother Earth or universe around us. Of course, it's become better and much cleaner. But the human psyche is very different. When you have tough times, we look at conservation. We look at being able to ride that wave. When we are in a very different conservative mindset right now. Everybody is looking to save and conserve their fuel. I don't know if you've ever ridden a scooter. I used to have an old scooter, and whenever it ran into reserve, which meant I only had so much of fuel left, I would not accelerate the scooter. I would say, when you run it at a small speed, it'll go longer and faster. You don't have to brake often and accelerate often. So let me cruise along. So right now, all investors are in a wait and watch mode. I'm not saying ventures are not being funded, but very specific ventures are being funded. And if you're one of them, they'll get funded. Absolutely. If you're in the health and wellness space, if you're in the space which is work from home, absolutely you'll get support. But a lot more money is not available to you because people are not in the investment mode. Angel investors are looking at, hey, I've already put money in my ventures. Uska kuch output mil jaye. So this is a very financially conservative mode for everybody. And that does mean that only professional investors who are good investors, who are not the, oh, let me also become an angel investor types. So a lot of money will dry up. Banks will become very, very fiscally very, very prudent. So this is how it happens. When the market eases up, you'll have a lot of support in terms of capital. When you're starting out right now, today, you do not need also that kind of money and investment to start with. So for those levels of investment, it'll not go away. But if you're looking for investment of a larger scale, then that will happen a little later. Business cycles are cyclical, and so are investment cycles. So right now, everybody's looking for safety, security more than growth. And that's the psyche of an investor also. I hope, Amrita, I've answered your question on that one.
Great. Thanks, Puneet. There's one question from Divakar, actually two. However, he has not mentioned the second part of that. If you can throw some light, what's the difference between a typical commercial enterprise and a social enterprise?
That's the question. Ask Rahul
And
and the team
Sharik sir,
members.
Sharik and Sudhakar. I know. I mean, whatever little bit you can share, that will be great.
I feel the motive has to be not profit initially. If you are looking to create a community good, a larger community good, more than just shareholder value, I think you are in the right spot. If you're starting by saying, how can I make money? How can I make a company which I can flip and sell to somebody in next 5 years? That's not a social enterprise. Social enterprise is a long-term play. Social enterprise will take a lot of time. Uh, look at Amul. It's been around for 60 years, 50 years, perhaps maybe 40 years plus. And that's the way a social enterprise works. But the satisfaction of creating an impact, societal impact, is the number one driver. Rest everything is secondary. That would be my, but it's a fine line. Can social enterprises become commercial enterprises? Can commercial enterprises have a social motive? So that's where there's no black and white answer I can give you. It's just a case of business plan you look. And when you meet the team, you can actually filter out whether this is a team driven by creating wealth motive or creating societal good motive. If you're doing societal good, but if you don't have a robust business plan which can generate profits and plow the profits back into the ecosystem, then you'll have a challenge. You cannot ever build a, then it's an NGO which is always raising money and spending money. And that's the difference between a social enterprise and an NGO. Social enterprise will raise money, will be profitable, will have customers, and will be able to put that money back into the venture.
So, so we we have Sharik sir as well. Maybe if you would like to chip in into this and take this question, sir, would you like to chip in? Would you like to share your thoughts? Anyways, I think he's on mute. Yeah. So let's get to the next question. Rohit, I will take your questions offline. Maybe you can write an email and then I will just reply to your answer regarding incubation support from AOD. So let's go to the next one. Meghna, I think Puneet, you know Meghna Joshi, one of our incubators. So she has a specific,
yes, of course.
yeah. So she says like, this question is specific to skilling sector. Should the new training module of skilling sector focus more towards making the trainees entrepreneurs and not job seekers, considering that it is going to take around 6 to 12 months for the industries to be back to their full normalcy to be able to generate jobs for the bottom of the pyramid? Interesting question.
Meghna, the sector you're serving and the skill seekers, the folks you are training, I think they need to have a lot more of entrepreneurial mindset. One of the key aspects of being an entrepreneur is the ownership. If you own it, you'll be a great entrepreneur and you'll be a great employee also. So sometimes we also feel that as an employee, we are entitled to attendance based compensation. Seth Godin calls it ABC. आप सुबह 9 बजे ऑफिस गए, स्वाइप किया अपना कार्ड, शाम को 6 बजे निकल लिए, 9 से 6 के बीच में जो करना है वो बॉस ने कराना है और आपको तनख्वाह मिल जानी चाहिए. An entrepreneur works 24/7, as you yourself know, Meghna. So in the tough times that are going to be currently pursuing for next few quarters for sure, if not more, we will look for employees who can deliver higher value for the same salary. And if you are ownership driven, you'll definitely deliver higher value. So entrepreneurship skills may not be all of them, but few of them, like accountability, being able to articulate an idea, being able to work in a team, those are skills absolutely, they become very essential. In fact, even if you leave the Corona 19 issue, the employability for fresh graduates in India has been a big challenge. And I've been, Rahul knows this and Sharik knows this. I've been tracking this for at least 2 years now. A lot of our MBAs do not find jobs that they would like to continue or they like to be happy with. So we have a huge issue. 80% of our engineers don't even know how to write a piece of code. So we do have an issue, and that becomes the next level challenge now for freshers who are looking for a job. So yes, I would like to believe entrepreneurship and some of these skills we have talked about are what I call as 21st century skills. Very relevant for everybody. Doesn't matter if you're bottom of the pyramid or tip of the pyramid, it still is very relevant.
I hope that answers your question. Yeah. There is one more regarding smart money. Manish is asking this question. Sir, you mentioned about raising smart money. Won't that dilute your organization's decision making and culture? Won't there be conflicts which may dilute the whole purpose of your journey?
That's a great question. And I must tell you, we did not raise money when we started out Octane. And we incubated it from our savings. The entire cash that we put into a venture like Octane, which ran into multiple crores later, was only 10 lakh rupees between three of us. I put in 4 lakh rupees. My other two co-founders put 3 lakh each. That's the way we incubated the company. Even when we exited, we didn't have investors on board. So there is positive and negative. Having gone through this experience, I can tell you, I was very proud to say we have bootstrapped the company. हमने कहीं से पैसा नहीं लिया, बैंक से लोन नहीं लिया, हमने कंपनी बनाई, ग्रो किया, उसको बेच दिया. लेकिन उसमें क्या होता है, when you're starting out, you need external perspective. And that's why I said smart money. Don't ask for money from somebody who's used to a simple interest payment schedule. बहुत सारे लोग होते हैं, पैसा मार्केट में उठाते हैं, देते हैं मार्केट में लोन पे कि हाँ आप मुझको हर महीने 2% दे देना या साल के 18-20% पे आपको फाइनेंस कर देते हैं. Don't look for financiers. Look for investors who are willing to walk with you. Is conflict good for a startup? Absolutely. अगर आपको conflict पसंद नहीं है तो please don't start a company. There'll be conflicts every day with your co-founders, but you have to understand how to resolve conflicts. If you're thinking entrepreneurship will be my way or highway, वो तो नहीं होगा. कई लोग बोलते हैं मेरा बॉस से नहीं पटती, आई डोंट लाइक बॉसेस, मुझे एंटरप्रेन्योरशिप करना है. देन आई से टेल देम बॉस तो ठीक है आप लगे रहिए, बट आई प्रे फॉर यू, बट चलेगा नहीं. So you will have tough situations. In fact, you'll have to talk to them, and that's where shared values comes into play. Smart money is the money that aligns with your value system. So please invest some time to figure out what kind of company you want to build. And when you're talking to smart money guy, tell him, look, हम इस तरह का काम करेंगे, हम कभी टैक्स की चोरी नहीं करें, हम कभी ये लाइन क्रॉस नहीं करें. So then the guy will say, yeah, what, I like them because this is the kind of place I want to be. So smart capital is important. Even if you take some money, I agree with you that if you sell out a lot more equity in your company, then the investor can move all over you. But there are ways to structure it. If you give somebody 26%, they'll get a board seat on your board. If you talk to any of your friends around you, or even if you came to Ambedkar University, actually they can tell you that how to structure it. So, investor which gives you some money, takes 5% of your business, and is willing to work with you is the right way to look at it. So, as much as the investors would interview you, please also interview your investors. You should act pricey and choosy also. It's not that the first guy that comes to you saying, अच्छा तुम्हारी कंपनी का वैल्यूएशन ज़्यादा बढ़ा देते हैं और इतना ले लेते हैं. If you don't like that person's office, you get that sixth sense, that vibe. If you don't like it, just don't take that money, even if it's at a higher valuation. Go with somebody who understands, who can handhold you. And that's where people like, the AUD's incubation center, these are the right places because you can practice and learn all of this. They can handhold you and also tell you, देख लो कैसे करना. So smart money will come, and smart money is important. One of the things we failed at Octane is we did not bring the external investor. If we had brought external investor, perhaps that person would have pushed us for a lot more growth. Because we are three friends doing it together, we were also very, very comfortable in what we did. We could change things around very fast, but we also didn't get the two parts. One, we did not get the network effect. Our angel investor would have gone to multiple places, talked to people. And secondly, we were very, very homegrown. We didn't have the external validation. The faster you have external validation inside your business ecosystem for your startup model, it is better for you.
So yeah, one of the takeaway from this answer is please keep, please interview your investor. Great. There is one from Amrita. As we know, there is a huge reverse migration going on right now because of this COVID-19 issue. Do you think if a startup, if we start something in rural space, will that help in solving this challenge in a way?
So Rahul, say that last part again.
If
To start up in this,
if they start something in this space, in the rural space, would it be a way to solve a problem which is arising because of reverse migration? I mean, I'm a little unclear about it, but I think
the answer is you look at internet, for example, right? In India, internet. I'll give you a data point, and then probably you'll get the answer. We are at 450 million users of internet in India. We are second only to China. We are ahead of the US. So number of smartphones in India, number of mobile connections, mobile video consumption is the largest in India per capita anywhere in the world. We have the cheapest internet anywhere in the world. So there are a lot of things already happening at 450 million users in India, right? Number one country for WhatsApp is India. Number one country for TikTok is India. Number one country for any app in the world after China is India, and China is close to everybody. So every internet business in the world, number one country in terms of users is India. And guess what? 800 million more internet users will be coming online. They do not have internet access right now. They will be coming online. They will not speak English. They will perhaps not even be able to read. Um, they will watch videos more. They will talk local content. They will come from our rural areas. They'll come from our semi-urban centers, semi-rural areas. Is there opportunity? Absolutely. Why do you think Google is putting money on going to railway stations and putting those free Wi-Fi connections to get people on board? So there's a lot more to happen in our rural spaces. And the bad situation is that when you watch those images on television of human misery, of this migration, it moves all of us, right? It's not the right. You won't wish this for anybody. But on the other side, even if 50% of these folks who are used to an urban lifestyle, who have seen what cities can do, they've expanded their mind horizon. They know what customers will buy, why they buy, how they buy. For example, I was talking to a ex-colleague of ours who's gone back to a small village near Diga beach in West Bengal. So I was talking to him yesterday. He's all safe. But he said that, whatever I would buy in Delhi, even food products, is 2x more expensive in the village he is in. So I didn't know this reality, right? So are there solutions to be built for such areas? Yes. Is there a new surge I see in the entrepreneurship at the village or taluka level? Absolutely. But is there, what role will you play? I'm not there as yet. I'm not a. But if you came to Ambedkar University and you spend some time with the folks, there are quite a few people who have tried to solve those problems around agriculture, around farm production, etc. I'm not the best person to tell you what are the entrepreneurship opportunities for the Shramik labor force who's going back to their villages. But in some ways, the positive side of it is that this will definitely galvanize a lot of local ventures for sure.
Thank you, Punit. There is one somebody. There's Akash who is seeking a tip. I guess he said like he started his business of cold pressed oils, but due to COVID-19, his business has lost a lot of money, and they're left with no money right now. What should we do? So, any quick tip or suggestion you have?
um, I'll have to look at the details. These are tough times, and that, as I said earlier, if you're starting with a clean slate today, you have a tremendous advantage compared to the businesses like the one we're discussing, where they've burned the money, they've burnt a lot of things. But my short answer will be there will be newer opportunities, but this venture will have to pivot into new areas. Your business assumptions will change, your cost assumptions will change, and you can get a bridge loan or something to pitch in to help you navigate this. But to be honest, a lot of ventures which were built on assumptions of consumer spends again and again and again will have a tough time staying afloat.
Cool. So there's one question from Namrata. Even I noted it down when you talked about refraining, taking financial help from family and friends. So she's saying like, is it is taking financial help from friends and family always undesirable, especially in times of crisis where there is a hesitation of the VC firms to give out money to the startups?
Unless you have a family member who's a professional investor who does not invest money for rate of interest, unless they know that that money may go completely off. So if you're getting money from your family or friends and you write on a piece of paper that I may not get anything back from this money, and if they're willing to sign it, please take the money. The problem is based on trust that this person is starting out, let me put some money. And if it works out well, then of course it's a great thing, right? But there is more likelihood that it may not be the case. And that's where your relationships are in suspect. If you go to a birthday party, a wedding ceremony, anywhere, all those places, and you bump into that person, that person should not think about that I put 5 lakhs in this guy's venture and he just ran away with my money. So a psyche of a professional investor is very different. When you meet an angel investor, he's putting 5 lakh rupees in 20 companies. He's putting 1 crore, not in one place, but 20 places. When I'm an angel investor, I know that 8 out of my 10 investments will go kaput, will not give me returns, will be zero. That's what we take that's what we speculate, that's what we take chances, and the two which will work well, which will grow very well. I mean, when you look at rate of interest on a savings account, you only get 3.5%, 4% every year on the money you save in a bank. But some of these investors who are very good successful investors, they take 16x, 17x. So they put 100 rupees, they make 2,000, 3,000 rupees out of the 100 rupees. But in those two ventures where they became successful, in the remaining 8, they're happy to wipe out the losses. Do you have somebody in a family who's willing to take that chance? Absolutely. If you have one, take the money. More importantly, you will take your parents' retirement fund. You will take some money from your brother who's saved up for something. Those are not the money I would like to put into uh, my venture. As so, there's a they don't validate the idea. They look at you and they put money based on the trust they have in you. And when you're not able to deliver on them, their repercussions are not very positive. And hence, I'm saying, look, as a guidance, don't take it. There's no wrong answer, but you're better served with taking money from a professional investor. Remember, smart money, smart cash.
Interesting. Great. Uh, there's one from UIC Anna University. Should a startup necessarily start with a novel or an innovative idea?
Great question. It doesn't have to be a technology innovation, but it needs to answer the following two questions. Are you creating something for the first time ever? Or are you going to be the best player in that category? So in that niche. So are you starting something which has never been heard about? Or are you going to be doing something which is there's a lot of people in the marketplace, but I know I can do better than this. I can hire better than them. I can deliver higher value to my customers better than this. So for example, if you look at Geo versus Airtel, Geo is not a new company that way, right? It's not a first in class. They were first in class, but they improved the overall experience. So they were, I mean, yeah, you could say they were the first data only network to start in India. They didn't go the traditional telephony route. But essentially for the customer, it meant it's best in class. It's the cheapest way to get video on your phone and reliable video on your phone. So this is, they solved the problem of best in class, not first in class. You also had mobile video on your phone before this. You also had 4G videos through Airtel before this. So the question you have to ask is, are you first in class or are you best in class? If you're neither, then I think you shouldn't start, because then you'll get killed by the competition.
So we will take one more question, I guess. And
Sure, Rahul.
yeah, so Dr. N Singh, he's asking how to organize like-minded partners to start an enterprise. How to organize, or how to find, what should be
How to
that?
find?
Yeah, how to find that, co-founder, or how to
Oh,
identify that
great.
like-minded partner who can start a business, who can start a venture.
Yeah, that's like saying, how do I find a good spouse? Actually, I'm sorry, I'm being, that's a light comment. Yes, it's a relationship. So when you're looking for a co-founder, few things you have to look for. What are the skills they bring which complement your skills? We talked about, if you're a business person, hire somebody from technology side, somebody from ops side. They'll complement your extrovert. Hire somebody who's more, in focus, introverted, just focuses on execution. So if you're a depth guy, then hire somebody who's a breadth guy. So look for somebody who complements you and not necessarily has the same skills as you. It's not easy. Finding the co-founder, I think, in my view, is as critical as getting smart money. Finding customers is relatively easier, and you have to talk to people. Will your friends become your best co-founders? Not necessarily, because when you are will your co-founders become best of your friends? Absolutely. In fact, you'll end up spending a lot of time with your co-founders, and you will know more about them than perhaps your own family in the process. So it's a longer commitment, and it's more about values. It's about where you come from, and it's also important how you structure the deal. How do you structure the equity structure? And when you are signing the thing together, you also should have an exit condition. If somebody leaves within 1 year of doing the venture, what is the equity they'll keep and what is the equity they'll give back to the venture? So having those tough conversations. So look for somebody you can have tough conversations with. And at least for next 2 to 3 years, you should align on the same path. If somebody is applying for an MBA outside of India and you're starting a venture today, then you're taking a high risk. So at least on a career journey, relationships, marriage, marital status, all of those conditions for next 2 to 3 years, you should have alignment of being together. So those are things I have looked for. I've looked for some people. So for example, I am an ideas person. So I've looked for people who are highly accountable, execution driven. And that's the filter I applied for my last two co-founders. They were not my friends. They became my friends. They're 12 years younger to me. But those were the filters I had applied. They had worked on projects for me and they were always delivering on time and before time and very, very accountable. I was in London. They were in India running their own company. And that's what we said, let's start a new company where we can be all co-founders. So this is some of the ways you can look at it. I've never tried going to a professional networking event to find a co-founder. Uh, that's how it is. A co-founder does not need to be as much of an entrepreneur as you are. But one thing is for sure, whenever you put together a team, you should definitely define whose word will be the final word. If there's conflict and if there's no easy answer, whose perspective will you go with? Finding a co-founder is not the easiest one. I've seen one of the best examples of two people who started a company, and I worked for one of those co-founders. That's NIIT, and they were friends who became co-founders. And I must tell you, if you have friends becoming entrepreneurs, you'll need to invest a lot more in the relationship, not to impact the friendship. The moment you start taking your friendship for granted for your entrepreneurship venture as a co-founder, your friendship will also go away. You lose a friend also. So how can you find? You can find people through their career progression. One of the things I do is if I find somebody very active in what they do, very good employee in a company, I meet them at an event, very proactive, sharp. I'll ask them this question: where do you see yourself in next 5 years, 2 years? Do you want to be an entrepreneur? And if the answer is yes, then that's a starting point. So that's the way I would look at finding. But this is a $1 million question. It's not an easy one. But good news is that they also hang out at similar places. So if you met, there are a lot of people participating on the call. So maybe they can also be your co-founder because they are already attending a journey, a session like this, which is around entrepreneurship.
Interesting. So there's one more, if we can take this one quickly. A little
I can.
unclear, but we'll just see. Sir, is it better to opt internet as an option to gain bigger audience, or the commercial one is better? I didn't get the second part. The commercial one is better. If you got it, then maybe you can explain that.
I saw that question appear on the screen. I'm not sure if I understand that question.
True,
So
true.
if you have the
Mahima,
they can.
would you like to
Oh,
ask it directly to Puneet? You can. I'll. Yeah. Yes. Go ahead, Mahima.
Yeah, sir. Sir, I wanted to ask, like, to gain more audience. So, is it a better option to I can gain more audience from internet options, like from social media apps, or is it better like offline, as I can say, like
Okay.
कि जैसे हम डे टू डे लाइफ से अपने हम गेन कर सकते हैं ऑडियंस by meeting people.
Got it.
देखिए
Thank you,
महिमा, दैट्स अ
Mahima.
ग्रेट क्वेश्चन. या दोनों के पर्सपेक्टिव्स अलग हैं. जो आपको मिलेंगे, आपसे एक बार आपके साथ कॉन्वर्सेशन करेंगे, आप संवाद करेंगे, आपसे मिलेंगे इन फिजिकल स्पेस, दे विल ट्रस्ट यू मोर. सो दे आर योर बिगेस्ट चैंपियन. तो उसकी क्वालिटी बढ़िया रहेगी. जो आपको मिलेगा, समझेगा, आपके साथ टाइम स्पेंड करेगा इन ऑफलाइन वर्ल्ड, रियल वर्ल्ड जिसको कहते हैं, उसकी आपके साथ स्टिकीनेस बहुत अच्छी होगी. वो आपके साथ जल्दी साझा करेंगे, वो आपको समझते हैं, जानते हैं, वो आपकी बॉडी लैंग्वेज समझते हैं, है ना. तो वो उसका अलग क्वालिटी होती है. और जो आपको ऑनलाइन रिलेशनशिप्स मिलती हैं, वो आपको स्केल मिलता है. तो आपको दोनों चाहिए. आपको ऑनलाइन भी चाहिए, ऑफलाइन भी चाहिए. ऑनलाइन इज easier टू एक्वायर, easier टू स्केल. ऑफलाइन इज more difficult. You have to invest a lot more time and energy. एक्सपेंसिव भी होता है, काफ़ी खर्चा भी होता है. लेकिन दोनों की महत्ता है. अगर आपको स्केल करना है, अगर आपकी ऑडियंस ऑनलाइन है, तो प्लीज़ गो ऑनलाइन. बट बहुत सारी सेगमेंट्स में अभी भी आपका जो ऑडियंस है वो ऑनलाइन नहीं है. तो वहाँ आपको जाके उनसे मिलने पड़ेगा. So India's middle class is pretty much online, but India's elite class will never buy some things from you online, and India's poor are also not pretty much online. So that's how it is. It's a mix actually. It also depends on your business proposition. If you're delivering higher value product, अगर आपकी चीज़ बिक रही है लाखों में, तो online may not be the best way to go. It's a higher value purchase. It's an high engagement purchase. Whereas if it's a small purchase, then perhaps online acquisition is the best way to go forward. So it also depends on the product category you are. But both are mutually exclusive, and you need to have both in your acquisition journey.
Thanks, Puneet. I hope that answers your question, Mahima. Puneet, I have a question. Maybe it will be good if you can share your thoughts around selling value to your customer and selling your idea. Which one is preferable, or which one works?
Actually, when you're a startup, you're only selling value to wherever you may not have a product which is the best product. You may still be working on, there's something called MVP, minimum viable product. I find selling value is always better. um, and that customers can relate to, your employees can relate to. So when you're a CEO of a startup, you have to always talk about value you're creating. That one story will attract customers, also will attract employees, also will also attract investors. That's one thing I would say early in the stage you have to start thinking about. Are you saying that's specific to a customer problem? What should be my story? That's a different discussion. That's the next level. But as an entrepreneur, being able to sell value is the highest point. Sometimes the question comes into play of selling versus value versus selling lower cost. Always, please sell value. Even if you're selling a lower cost solution, please always try to articulate it in value. You know, the biggest marketing disaster ever in the automotive industry in the last 20 years is from India. A beautiful product, beautiful brand name, great brand, and great value. It never sold in numbers because they sold the story of cost, cheapest cost, and not value. Can you take a guess which that brand is? Tata Nano. Beautiful car. Yeah, Sudhakar, thank you. And that's exactly the point. So if you're selling value, you'll never fall into that trap. So this is the part that sell value always. If you are selling value, what you stand for, how can you deliver a result? I think more customers would love you and more investors will love you and more employees will join you.
Thank you, Puneet. I think we have no further questions. So yeah, we can call it a day. And thanks, Puneet. Thanks for your time. Thanks everybody else who joined us before the schedule 10, stayed along with us until now. It was really insightful. It was really knowledgeable and really motivating session, I think, for all the participants. And looking forward to sharing or inviting you for more such series. And obviously, for the participants, keep engaging with us. You can note down Punit's coordinate and obviously try to connect him on LinkedIn. Interestingly, I found him on LinkedIn, and since then we are kind of connected, and we never lost touch. And he has been really, an inspiration for us as well and for the startups. And thanks for the journey so far. Looking forward.
Thank you, Rahul. Thank you, Sharik. Thank you, Sudhakar, for having me on this web-based meeting. This is the first time I'm doing a web session for the Ambedkar University.
Absolutely.
And I'm happy to see what you guys do. I'm very pleased to see what you guys are doing at the Incubation Center at Ambedkar University. And I hope that more and more of the participants on this web-based interaction and also people watching it on YouTube, they come and participate in their entrepreneurship journey start their entrepreneurship journey with Ambedkar University's Center for Incubation and Entrepreneurship. Thank you for having me here. And if you're watching this later and if you have any follow-up question, I'm easily accessible on LinkedIn. Just refer to the session and I'll be happy to add you to my connection network and answer your questions. Thank you so much and namaste to everybody.
Thank you. Namaste, everyone. Take care. Have a great